can hear. Okay. So I'd like to call up Rusty Rasmussen, Senior Vice President of Home Loans Division Manager. And he's going to come and introduce his team as well as give us a market overview. Please help me welcome Rusty.
Thank you so much. I'm Rusty Rasmussen, Central Pacific Bank, and our motto is close on time. I'd like to take a moment just to introduce our team that is here. We have them strategically placed, one at each of your tables, so that we can network better. And let's start over here. David Dixon. Familiar face, everybody knows David. And then the next table is Paul Say. And Paul is fluent in both Cantonese and Mandarin, just so that you're aware. And then in the back table, I see is that Zach Gaynor. Everybody knows Zach. Next table over, John Okabe. And table in front, Linda Fagner. Let me introduce Linda Fagner. Linda has been with Central Pacific Bank for about 15 years, right, Linda? 15 years, and she's been in our Maui office, just recently relocated to Oahu. I believe Celia Fujikami is on this front table. And if you need any loan officer that speaks Japanese, of course Celia Fujikami is your loan officer there. The next table over, Andy Stuber, and everybody knows Andy. Right behind him, Ian Kemsley. Ian. And then on the back table, Kevin Morris. Before I forget, Linda is joining the team from Maui, and she does speak both Ilocano and Tagalog, so we have a number of different languages. If I'm going to switch to the next slide,
Just hit page down. Or you can do that. Okay. Just to advance.
Okay.
Right arrow. Oops.
As you can see, I'm very technically challenged. It's been a problem for me in the new age. Rate markets, this is just a little bit of a synopsis, but it's actually changing. I'm going to just jump to the next slide. What I did was put up here what interest rates have done so far this year. And we're looking at rates that are in the, started out in the 4.5 range, and this is with 0 points. So like right now, a VA loan is at like 3.625 at 0 points. It's really, really good now, all the different rate programs that are out there. It's gone down each month, and then the final box you see over there for May at 4.20, I actually made this last week. And so once I update it to finish the month of May, it should go down to pretty much match where we're at in April. So we have some excellent rates, and the Fed has said that they have no plans to raise the rates. It doesn't look like anything dramatic is going to happen this year. So we might see a rate environment through the rest of this year that we haven't seen for a long time. And in the mortgage world, just like with you folks, we just don't like to see a lot of fluctuation. So when it's going up and down, that creates a lot of anxiety for buyers. Should I lock in? Should I not lock in? So if it just settles down in this low range and stays somewhat the same, that's good for all of us. So we're excited about that. But I mean, we're looking at rates in the mid threes, and we could see that continuing through the rest of the year. This trade issue with China is a big deal. So I would expect that if the trade war or trade negotiations that are going on, if that gets resolved, we'll probably see a nice rise in the stock market, and we could see rates bump up a little bit. But based on what we've seen so far this year with all the volatility, I don't see it going up much higher than where we are right now. I wanted to talk a little bit about, just give you an idea of some of the things that we train on, give you a little peek inside what we work on, especially as the theme of the day today is a changing market and market proofing your program. And we talk about that also, and a lot of what we talk about is just some real basics. It might sound, fuzzy, warm and fuzzy to you, but many times we've found over the years, and you can tell by the color of my hair, I've been through a few cycles in my career here. And what we found is that one of the key things to get through a tough market and working with our customers and working with borrowers is that it's really important to focus on what their particular need is. And we talk about, when we train internally, about genuine concern. If we show genuine concern for the customer's specific needs, then many times everything works out. They'll trust us. When you refer your precious buyer to us, right? The one thing we try to keep in mind always is that they don't become our client. They're always your client. And so we do what we can to support their buying decision and to promote you throughout the whole loan process. And then that tends to make everything work out fine. If the buyer feels that we have their specific needs in mind, then typically that will work through all the different problems. But I wanted to talk about one thing, and this is a chart that comes from the National Association of Realtors website, the realtor.com, in their research area. And this chart shows wealth from 2000 to 2016 and then 2016 to 2018. But the key thing is, if you look on the left-hand side, there's those tiny, tiny, tiny little boxes at the bottom that don't move. And that is wealth created by renters. On the right-hand side, you see the same thing, wealth created by homeowners. And so this helps to illustrate a concept that we take to heart, and a conversation we have many times when people will sit down with their loan officer and say, oh gosh, I don't know if I really should buy this house or not. What do you think? And what I've always said over the years, and one thing we train on and try and do, is make sure that we can support and encourage their buying decision to support and promote you. But at the same time, I'll tell people, listen, I've spent a lifetime looking at people's financial statements, which is their loan application. And the most wealth that anybody ever accumulates is the equity in their home. So when I look at personal financial statements, loan applications, whatever, the most wealth anybody has is typically the wealth, equity they've accumulated in real estate. And so you just really can't go wrong. And what I would do is many times ask people, okay, if you bought a house 10 years ago, right, you'd probably have $200,000 or so in equity. So if you had started saving 10 years ago, could you save $200,000? If you start saving now, you think you can save up $200,000. And on 6 months or a year or even 2 years, you may see value go up and down, whatever the case may be. But believe me, 10 years from now, you'll be glad that you did this. And a lot of times that will change because people then realize there's no way I can save up that much money, and you get to live in the house in the meantime. So when I go back and look, I went back and looked 10 years ago, 2009, and the median sales price on Oahu for single family was $575. The average sales price was $684. So today, the median sales price is I think $760 in that range. And the average sales price is over $900,000. So just the facts, just the data shows if you had bought a house 10 years ago, you'd have $200,000 in equity right now. And typically, that tends to really reinforce that buying decision. And that's why I put this slide up. And I wanted to just share with you that we train and talk about these things. And the purpose is that we can support the buyer's decision, support your client, your precious client that you give to us to get financing. So that is my sermon for the morning. And I just wanted to thank Patty and thank everybody for this opportunity to sponsor. And I will turn it over to Patty. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Rusty. Okay, I'd like to ask all of you to stand up. Now, for those of you who've been in the business 20 years or more, you may sit down. For those of you who have been in the business 10 years or more, you may sit down. So for those of you who are standing, you have not been through a full cycle of the real estate market. And so this session today is going to be very enlightening for you you can sit now, to hear what to expect over the next few years. So why do we talk about the real estate cycles? Why do we talk about the market cycles? What's the big deal? Buyers are the demand. Supply is the inventory. Okay, so when the number of qualified buyers go down, then the inventory starts to improve. And that's when you are in a buyer's market. Okay, so a seller's market is when there's more demand or qualified buyers than supply, which is available inventory. In a seller's market, the prices start going up because you have multiple offers by buyers who are bidding higher than the asking price, bidding higher than the next buyer, so they have an opportunity to get that property. This can be affected by limited inventory. It could be affected by low mortgage rates, a strong job market, or household income increases. As the prices go up, there's less buyers who can qualify for those homes. So then the supply starts to build up, and the buyer demand starts to go down. This becomes a buyer's market. This can also be affected by job losses, pay cuts, a rise in the mortgage interest rates, or other external economic factors. Since the beginning of this year, there's been several economic factors that have affected our business. So we're in a kind of a strange period right now since the beginning of the year. What are some of those factors that have affected our real estate business this year?
Government shutdown.
The government shutdown. Since the ending of December, the government shutdown for 35 days affected all those who have a federal government job. They didn't get any pay at all. What else? What happened to the stock market in late December? So it took an unexpected dip, and it came back up again, and it's been kind of up and down. This morning it's down because of Mexico tariff war. So, there's a lot of things that affect the business. The other things are extreme weather throughout the nation. That has had an effect on people unexpectedly losing their homes or having to move somewhere, not being able to travel. Other things include the trade war with China, as Rusty had mentioned as well. So all of these things combined have an effect on our market. So this chart shows a typical real estate cycle, and the 4 stages of the market are recovery. So the first one is recovery. So you see that from the bottom of the market, it starts to go on an uptick, and then expansion, where it goes to the peak. That's the blue section. And then it starts to turn down, which is hyper supply. And then the last stage, which we don't like, is recession. So that's the stages of the market. The duration of each stage of the market can vary. So for example, this last cycle that we went through, the Great Recession, which was started in late 2008, and it continued through 2009, was a very short down market, fortunately. So this is what we talk about all the time when we're talking about the real estate market. Understanding the real estate cycle can help you anticipate what is likely to happen when the market shifts. So these cycles reflect the economic cycles, and the duration of these stages can vary. So stage 1 recovery is when you see decreasing vacancy rates, low inventory, moderate absorption, low to moderate employment growth, negative to low rental rate growth. This is a seller's market, and we will see units up, but prices remain down. Stage 2 is our expansion cycle, and we're still seeing decreasing vacancy rates, moderate growth in inventory, high absorption, moderate to high employment growth, and medium to high rental rate growth. This is when we are making lots of money. This is a strong seller's market where units are up and prices are up. Then we go into stage 3, which is the hyper supply, when the market starts shifting to a buyer's market, increasing vacancy rates, lots of inventory, low absorption, moderate to low employment growth, medium to low rental rate growth. Units start to go down, and the prices are still up. So we're right now moving into that stage 3. Stage 4 is recession, and this is when there's high vacancy rates, moderate to low new construction, low absorption, low to negative employment growth, low to negative rental rate growth. Units are down, prices are down, volume is down, and we are not happy. We had a very short stage 4 in the last cycle, October 2008 through November. By 2010, we were already on the recovery cycle. Okay, so by the way, I'll make these slides available for you, so you don't have to take pictures of the slides. Okay, next. This is the emotional version of these stages of the market. And with the recovery stage, or stage 1, we first see hope, relief, and optimism. We experienced the recovery stages between the years 2000 and 2003, and then again from 2010 to 2012. Okay, so can you read this? So it's from 2000 to 2003 and 2010 to 2012. So that was the recovery stage. Then getting into the expansion stage, or stage 2, we see excitement, thrill, and greed and euphoria. Those are the best. We went through those stages between 2004 and 2006 here. And then again from 2013 to 2014. Oh, there. It's too far. There. Okay. Then we see the shift into hypersupply, or stage 3, and the emotions shift to anxiety, denial, and fear. We went through this stage between 2007 to 2008 here. And what happened in 2009? The market hit the bottom, okay? In the current cycle, we are entering the hypersupply phase, stage 3. So we're right here. So we haven't hit the bottom yet. The question is, when will we move into the recession stage? What do you think? This year? Next year? The year after? Who thinks it'll be this year? Who thinks it'll be next year? How about 2021? Yeah, me too. All right, so I modified the HBR slide here. So this shows year-to-date April. So if we look at single-family home median prices, they're pretty much on par with last year. Condo prices are down slightly by 2.4%. So not much change in prices. Prices are still kind of stable. Unit sales for single-family homes are down slightly by 1.4%, so pretty much even with last year. However, condo unit sales are down by 11% compared to last year. Months of inventory for both single-family homes and condos are up. So this means that if we take the available inventory and divide it by the average monthly rate of sale, this is the number of months it will take to sell through all of the inventory that we have. So when the months of inventory start to go up, that means that the market is slowing down because the pace of buyers is starting to decrease. Active inventory of listings is up for both single family and condos, and the rate of sales is at a slower pace than the rate of new listings coming on the market. So pendings are down, but they are less down than they have been in the past year. So that's a good thing. You can see for the first 4 months of this year, especially in April, it was almost at the same rate as it was last year. Whereas if we look at the purple line, which is all of 2018, compared to 2017, there was a pretty consistent gap in pending unit sales for single-family homes every single month. Months of inventory shows the absorption of the market. And from the beginning of this year, the months of inventory started to climb, and we're now at the highest level of months of inventory since the beginning of 2012. But it's still good. A balanced market is when we have about 6 months of inventory remaining. So this slide shows unit sales for single-family homes and condos compared to unemployment. Why do you think this is an important slide for us to look at? So there's an inverse correlation between unemployment and real estate unit sales. So the bars here, unemployment, are shown on the bars, the gray bars, by year. So the rate of unemployment compared to the unit sales, which is the line part of the graph. So when unemployment is high, it means more people are not working. Our economy is strong when unemployment is low. When people have jobs, they buy homes. So this is important for you to keep track of our state's unemployment rate, and right now we're at a very low level. Population is also a big factor in home sales, and more people mean more buyers. So in this graph, the bars represent the total population on Oahu by year from 1999 to this year. And the line shows the unit sales of single-family homes and condos on Oahu. So you can see from 2009, where I have it circled, there's a correlation, a direct correlation between the population growth and our real estate unit sales. Prior to that, this was an anomaly because that was affected by the financial crisis. So that was not a normal market. Major causes of the subprime mortgage crisis, which was in 2004, 2005, 2008, and 2007 and 2008. Okay. So major causes of the subprime mortgage crisis included international trade imbalances, lax lending standards, which contributed to high levels of household debt, and a real estate bubble that burst. It was a financial crisis. Okay, this slide has the median sales price compared to unit sales of single-family homes. So the bars show the unit sales for single-family homes on Oahu, and the line shows the median sale price of single-family homes on Oahu. So there's a lag between the decline in demand, which is the number of unit sales, and the decline in prices. So the unit sales will start to take, when it starts to go down, then the prices, the decline in prices will follow. This is affordability compared to the total unit sales. So on this graph, the bar represents single-family home sales on Oahu since 1996, and the line shows the affordability. Now, affordability is based on the average household income of a family of 4 on Oahu, the 30-year fixed rates, the median sale price of a single-family home, and assuming that the buyer would be putting down a 20% down payment on their loan. So this shows how many can actually afford to buy based on that criteria, and that's how we measure affordability. So you can see that for the past few years, our affordability has been going down. That's the line that's going down here. So why do you think that's happening? What's causing affordability to go down in the past few years? The major thing is that the median sale prices have been really increasing over the past few years, which affected the buyers and the buyers' income hasn't gone up at the same in the same proportion. So that's affected affordability. So based on the population on Oahu, taking that and dividing it by the total number of sales in the year, this shows you how many people you need to contact for each sale. So this year, you need to contact 134 people to make one sale. So if you don't have 134 people in your sphere, you better start filling in your pipeline now. So this graph, which I'm sure you're all familiar with because this is provided to us monthly by the Honolulu Board of Realtors, this is a really good visual because this illustrates the past two cycles. So if you look at the peak of the market between 1988 and 1990 here, this was a peak. And then we went into the drop, which was 1991 to 1994. And we thought, okay, that might have been the bottom, but it dropped again between 1995 and 1999. So that was a very long cycle of a down market. And from 2000 was when we started to see the recovery here. So from 2000, it went up all the way to the peak of the market, which was 2005, 2006. And then 2007, we started to see the decline. And then 2008, and the bottom was 2009. 2010, we saw the recovery again, and the peak was 2017. And last year, it started to fall off a little bit. So that illustrates two cycles right there since 1988. This graph shows the median sale prices. And we're very fortunate on Oahu that our median price did not drop at the same levels of our unit sales. Most locations and cities throughout the nation saw a huge drop, especially during the down markets. But our prices, pretty much, we saw a little bit of a dip, but not too much of a dip, but then we saw a huge increase, a slight dip again, and then it's on an increase again. So what does that tell us? That the value of real estate on Oahu is really holding its value even through the down cycles. So this is a graph that shows single-family homes sold by price range. And this is for the month of April. And if you want to really concentrate on where the majority of sales are, then you would look at the sweet spot, which is this right here. So the sweet spot for single-family homes on Oahu are between 600 to 800,000. Where can you find single-family homes between 600 to 800,000 on Oahu? Does it exist? Yes, it does. Okay, but you may want to expand your sweet spot to a broader range to include these levels here, and then it would be from 500,000 to 999,000. Okay, so a little bit more to work with there. For condos, the sweet spot is between 200,000 to 600,000. So that's where the majority of sales are taking place. This shows consumer confidence, and this goes back, it's a 20-year trend of consumer confidence in the United States. And consumer confidence is how the general public feels about the economy. And this has a big impact on our real estate sales. So when consumer confidence is up, retail spending is up, people go and eat in restaurants, they travel, and they buy homes. When consumer confidence starts to go down, they withdraw their spending, and that affects, it has a trickle-down effect on all the other industries. This is a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage chart since 1971. And so it's a 45-year history of annual average 30-year fixed mortgage rates going back to 1972, actually. The highest interest rate peaked in October 1981 at 18.45% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. The lowest was 3.35% in November and December 2012, so it's very recently. This year through April, the average rate is 4.3, and the monthly rates have been lower than all of 2018. So this is a really good time for buyers to buy. And it's really not much higher than the all-time low. According to the National Association of Realtors, this year is forecast to be better than the pre-9/11 in terms of housing affordability. The 30-year mortgage rate is better. Our population is higher. Population of adults is higher. The number of households is up. Jobs are up, and total home sales are up. Or I'm sorry, are worse. That's the only thing that's worse. But overall, it looks like the forecast is positive for this year. So is it a good time to buy? According to the National Association of Realtors, they have been tracking by public surveys since the first quarter of 2017, where it was at the peak. And if we look at the first quarter of 2019, it was better than the last quarter of 2018. So it's still good, but it's going down. So what does this tell you? What does all of this tell you? Are we headed for a positive market in the next year or two? Probably an okay, stable market. And this is why we asked some of our expert panelists to come and share their experience with you on the market cycles that they've gone through and how they manage their business through those times. So I'd like to call up my three panelists now. I just saw Beth Chang. Beth? Okay, next up is Nancy Metcalf. And last but not least is RONALD Lee. So you can sit in that order. Yeah. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of a bio on each of them. Beth worked for a law office and planned on going to law school. Her husband suggested that she get her real estate license and sell real estate while working at the law office. So Beth got her license and she interviewed 30 brokerage firms. She joined Bradley Properties in 1982, and she liked that they were a mid-sized company and it was close by to the law office where she worked. Beth didn't sell anything in her first year. By her third year, Beth was a top producer of her company and earned $35,000 that year. Fast forward, 37 years later, Beth is a recognized top producer in the company and throughout the industry nationwide. So that's Beth. Nancy Metcalf is a second-generation realtor, daughter of legendary Barbara Dew, one of the founders of our company. Nancy started her career in real estate 28 years ago as a receptionist at Conley Dew, then started assisting top producers in the company. This provided Nancy with an exceptional and invaluable foundation of knowledge in sales, systems, and processes. Nancy believes in giving back to the industry and has walked that talk by serving many terms on the Board of Directors of the Honolulu Board of Realtors, as well as the Professional Standards Committee. In 2018, last year, Nancy was honored as Realtor of the Year by the Hawaii Association of Realtors for her dedicated leadership and contributions to the industry. Last but not least is Ronald Lee, and Ron is the epitome of quiet but effective. When Ron was still in college, he worked at Orson's restaurant. How many of you remember Orson's? And he was working with a good friend and classmate. His friend decided to go into real estate and soon was driving a Mercedes, buying investment properties and making loads of money. His friend lured Ron into joining him, and in 1980, Ron got his license and started at Barron Realty. What was the market like in 1980? Interest rates were 13 to 16%, and the Federal Reserve was waging a war with inflation. Affordability dropped to an all-time low. Perfect timing, Ron. Ron says, although it was not a good year to make money, it was a great year to learn. And he spent his entire career learning the intricacies of real estate. He became the broker owner of Real Estate Incorporated and has been recognized among the top 100 realtors in Hawaii. Ron is an astute investor, developer, and truly is a really nice guy. This is why his clients love him. By the way, of the three who collectively have 104 and a half years of experience, Ron has the longest tenure with 39 and a half years in real estate. And his good friend and classmate who got him into real estate is Vernon Chalk. Okay, so I'm going to be asking the panelists some questions. There's a microphone there that I need you to pass to each other as you're speaking. So Beth, we're going to start with you. You want to grab the mic? Okay. Beth, you started your real estate career in 1982 when the interest rates fluctuated between 13.6 and almost 18%. You mentioned that you didn't sell anything in your first year. So what did you do for that first year, all that time?
Actually, let me see. How do you do this? You know how technical I am. Okay. Oops. No? Yeah, it's fine. Okay. I'm one of those people that likes to know what they're doing. And so I was terrified that if I inflicted myself on someone and didn't know anything, I would be sorry afterwards. So I spent my first year, because when I was first hired, they didn't really have a desk for me. And so I sat in the workroom with a box under in that area, and I listened to all the agents as they came in to do their Xeroxing and all of that. It was a great experience to listen to all the things that they were doing. So I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research. I had done that at the law office, so that's kind of the way I do things. And I didn't want to do anything for my family or anything. Again, I didn't want to make a mistake. So I spent my time mostly learning the business and trying to learn as much as possible, and also offering my services to other agents, because I was a really fast typer. So, and some of them were not. So I worked with, actually with Marisha Coleman. I would do all her typing and everything, and ask her if I could ask questions to her. We didn't have training in those days. You guys are really lucky. So I would ask her questions, and I would type up her fact sheets and anything else that I could do, run around, and whatever she needed, I would help. And she was one of the top producers in the company at that time.
You have time, like we talked about. So, and I didn't really know any better. I mean, my job before that as a salaried employee was the agents had to earn my services as an assistant. So I was just a salaried person. But I learned what I would do differently if I ever was in sales, which I never ever pictured myself being. And a lot of people weren't top producers. They counted on me too much. That's what I felt. they would ask me to do a MLS run for them, and then it wasn't quite what they wanted, and then they had to come back and ask for it again. So I wanted to know how to do everything, and that's kind of probably why I've never worked with an assistant. But I watched my mom, I saw where she got her business, and which was not from open house, so that's where I started my dislike of open house, actually. She influenced that. And so you just kind of started putting myself out there to people I knew. I knew I was never going to be a caller. I was a mailer. And I had high school friends, a friend of mine who was in some kind of other outside sales, and he said, "You have an amazing mailing program." So in the beginning, I didn't have listings or closings to postcard about, but I had gone to enough different seminars that I bought this program that just had all these really great generic real estate postcards, and I just started sending them out, and I started a newsletter at that time. But the key also was looking at property, because you have time to know the inventory, because in that time when someone might ask you about something, you could actually talk about it intelligently. But I think one of the things overall for me is I'm not a stats person, and some people are, and that's not a right or wrong. So I'm aware of what's going on the market, but that's nothing that I can control. And there's always people that need to buy and sell. So you want to be aware of the market that we're in, but not let it get you down. You just have to keep your focus on what you do every day, because there are people out there that are still going to need you.
Thank you, Nancy. Ron, you started your real estate career at the lowest point.
Good question. They didn't buy. Okay, so what happened was in the end of 1979, when I finished my real estate exam, Paul Volcker was the federal chairman, and he said inflation was running rampant and he needed to curb inflation. So he raised the interest rates. The prime interest rate maxed out at a little over 21% in 1981. And that led to a downturn in the real estate market from 1980 to about 1984. So as we sat there, we had great educational classes. I was fortunate to be with a company that was very progressive and trained. We had maybe 2 or 3 trainings every week. So we sat open house almost every day, because we had projects, and we picked up clients from there. And you pick up a client, and they still, if they were able to purchase, the interest rates made it very difficult. Okay, so we got a lot of training. I was fortunate. I made a few sales. And back in 1980, we didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. We had a typewriter with NCR paper. The contract was 1 page front and 1 page back with an addendum. The purchase contract was very simple. I remember they didn't have provisions for reviewing of condo rules, and there was no provision for reviewing of a professional inspection. And I think we kind of started that, because when we did make a sale, we asked to do that, and it became part of the contract. So when you talk about your question, what did we do? We learned a lot, and we were persistent. Okay, well, more perseverance. We just stayed the course. And we set up open house a lot.
Well, how could buyers get a loan?
There was something called a graduated payment mortgage. So if you had an FHA buyer with low down payments, they would have a teaser rate of 13.75%. And then every year it would go up. And then
Teaser rate.
I think Rusty probably remembers some loans where they would defer on amount. There's a lot of crazy programs. Agreement of sales were really popular in the 70s, and it kind of died out with the due on sale clause being enforced. So a lot of sales were done by agreement of sale or sub-agreement of sales, and then you just had to bite the bullet if you want to get that type of rate, and it was very high. I mean, very few people wanted to stick their neck out and get a rate that was 13, 14, 15, 16%. But the good thing was, money market certificates, if you had money, were paying over 10%. so.
Hey, Beth,
Yes.
can you tell us about your first sale?
Really? Okay, this is embarrassing. I was referred someone who was at the, he was an attorney with the government, and he and his wife wanted to be in Lanikai. They had come from East Coast, and they wanted to be close to the ocean. Both of them loved the water. I explored Lanikai like crazy, up, down streets, trying to research it before they came here. He was transferred here, and he was going to be here for 5 years. He was heading that department. And so they couldn't quite find what they wanted, so they thought, well, maybe we'll build. So I was out showing them a lot on the hillside above Alapapa, and was all dressed as we used to, with high heels and skirts and all that, jacket. And I was talking to them, and they were standing here, I was standing with my back towards the ocean, and I was going through this whole thing, and I stepped back and fell down the hill.
Oh my God.
I remember laying in the dust going, I just want to die. The hole open up and fall into this hole. I'm so embarrassed. And they're going, Beth, are you okay? Beth, are you okay? There's nothing but dust. And so I get up really fast. I start dusting myself off, trying to compose myself. I said, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. Fortunately, I was, but I was so embarrassed. And so that particular client, I ended up selling them a house, 3 other properties, everyone in their office that came in and went out. To this day, I still work with that office. My husband teasingly said, they just let you help them because they felt sorry for you. Not so. But it was pretty embarrassing. Obviously, I never wore high heels on a dirt lot again.
Nancy, what kind of disciplines did you develop to stay on point with your business?
Well, I'm a big quotes person, so some of that guides me every day. But I worked for 12 years before I went to sales. I had been an 8 to 5, Monday through Friday employee. And I think that really is helpful because when I started in sales, I was very used to getting up in the morning to go to work. Now, at the beginning, my daughters were probably like 6 and 4, or some 5 and 7. So when they left with their dad in the morning to go to school, there was some temptation to, oh, wow, cool, I have the house to myself, and I would kind of do some cleaning up, and I did that for maybe a couple months, because then I would stay up really late at night, and then eventually I went back to, kind of a daily thing. So it was daily to be in an office, and I think that's still my discipline. I get up at 5:45, I'm usually at my computer eating my breakfast and looking at emails by 6:30 in the morning. I come to the office. I've already been working for a couple hours by the time I get to the office. And I stay and maybe leave mid-afternoon. So I just like being in the office. And I think it grounds you, and there's great energy in our office. But a few years ago, I went to a CRS class that I had heard about for many years, but I always thought it was the wrong thing. It's called Ninja, if you haven't been in it. And to me, when I thought Ninja, I was thinking, Ninja, like really forceful selling, which was exactly the opposite of what it was. It was just exactly what I felt. So I just wanted to share their 5 principles, the Ninja principles. The first one is to show up. The second one is to pay attention and listen. tell the truth and keep your promises, create value for your customer, don't get attached to the outcome. And that's so huge because, you know, we all have been there when we really want a sale to happen, and you make a lot better choices in business when you remember, don't get attached to the outcome. You're helping your clients make decisions, and it can't be anything about what we want. And you have to be, even with difficult clients, you have to be willing to walk away when it's just not a healthy thing.
Thank you, Nancy. And speaking of Ninja, there's going to be an ARIA Ninja class for CE credit on June 10th, given by of the three. How many cycles have you experienced in your real estate career?
Okay. 3 down cycles, 3 up cycles, and another cycle hopefully coming. So, yeah, 3 cycles, 3 down cycles, and
Tell us about the differences of the three.
oh my goodness, the last one was nothing. It was really the most painful was not my first one. It was the one right after the Japanese bubble, well, the reason why the market went up was because the yen became powerful, Japanese people started buying, and eventually the bubble burst. But in 1991, there was the first Gulf War, or the invasion of Kuwait, and that led to tourism industry, Waikiki slowing down. It was, I don't know if you folks remember, but it was a ghost town in Waikiki. A lot of people got laid off, hotel workers, restaurant workers. There was a major deployment, Kaneohe Town, Wahiawa, Schofield. They all left to be deployed. And what happened was rental properties, there were a lot of vacancies, and rentals went down about 25%. So a lot of people bought real estate when the market was going up between 86 to 90, 91. And they were in that euphoria and everybody was happy, and they go, oh, I'm making a lot of money, and then everything fell out. And investors were tired of paying big negatives, so they started having, trying to get back the property or doing short sales. And at that time, short sales were much more difficult than they are now. But short sales, I don't even think there was, maybe computers were just starting. There was no email. So you'd have to call the mainland early in the morning, and hopefully you get in touch with the asset manager, and hopefully they would contact you within the next day or two. So a short sale became a very long sale, if it became true. And just like today. But what happened is short sales became foreclosures. So 92, 93, 94, you saw short sales. 95, 96, you saw a lot of foreclosures. From 98 to about 2000, you had a huge problem because now you had bank-owned properties fighting with bank-owned properties to sell non-producing assets. So instead of prices going stabilizing, they were dropping. So, and that was the longest downturn I've seen in real estate. But the good thing is everything comes back. Affordability index, because of the prices and the interest rates coming lower, I think we're at about 7% in 2000, which is a really great rate. Made it affordable for renters to purchase and investors to get positive cash flow. And by 2003, interest rates went below 6% for the first time in maybe 40 years. And we saw a great market. And what else do you want me to expand on?
This was, what did you do differently during the 3 different cycles?
Well, it's fortunate. Okay, so I remember you asked me in the previous questions, how did we make sales? There was something called hula me. Kulanay was this state program that allowed first-time home buyers with limited assets to purchase with low interest rates. And that's what we sold. So I sold a lot of $60,000, $70,000 condominiums. Not a lot, maybe 5. Those became my first-time home buyers. And the first-time home buyers became step-up buyers. And so every cycle, I've been able to help these people purchase or step up, or well, now I'm helping their kids and their parents, but it's that's what I did. I just worked with the clientele I was giving. Yeah.
Thanks, Ron. Beth, during the downturn in the market, where did you focus your efforts? I heard you went door knocking.
Yes. Okay. Two of the things that we did have training on was cold calling and door knocking. Now, I did not like cold calling. That was not for me. I just didn't. I need to look somebody in the eyes and kind of have that rapport. So myself and another agent decided, because of the military, we decided to go to Makakilo and walk up and down all the streets and door knock. And it was great. We got great business. The wives were usually home during the day, kids were at school, and so we always mostly found somebody home that we could talk to. And at that time, it wasn't the kind of market or the kind of environment that we have now. People actually came to their door and opened the door and chatted with you, and we'd give them the information that we had gathered and stats and things like that. And so we got a lot of business out there because the military is moving in and out. So that's kind of what I did during that period of time. That was, I agree. The middle one was the worst. But it was a good time. Yeah, I learned a lot from interacting with people and finding out what their concerns were, and you know, it was great. Yeah.
So Beth is our Makakilo expert. Nancy, what is your main source of business now?
Over 90% of my business comes from friends or past clients and referrals. So I nurture that continually. That's why I continue to mail and do those things.
Okay. Ron, can you tell us some of the differences between selling real estate in the 1980s versus today? And you touched upon some of it, like the 2-page contract and what did you call it? NCR paper? Is that correct? Carbon paper?
Yeah, it's like carbon paper, upgraded carbon paper.
No fax, no cell phones.
There was a whiteout, and there wasn't.
Typewriter and whiteout.
Yeah, totally. No, that's good. It's basically that you're doing the same thing. You're providing exceptional service. You're doing you're doing things that separate you from being just anybody else. I think the goal has always been you want your client to remember you. And what I did a lot back then was every time I had a chance to get something signed or meet the client, I did. I drove to their house, I drove to their workplace, because you want them to remember you, you want to have a rapport, you want to have a relationship with them. So when they think of real estate, they think of you. And I think I've been doing that even with DocuSign and even with emails. I'd rather call them, meet with them, than take the shortcut. And the shortcut will probably make you quicker sales, but you may not keep the client. So you have to spend the time, I think, maybe spend the time with the client. And don't take the shortcut. Meet with them, and then when they think of real estate, they'll think of you.
It's great advice. Okay, Beth, what is your main source of prospecting currently?
I am much like Nancy. I do the same thing. I have clients now that I've had I just helped one last year. He was actually in his mom's stomach when I first met his parents and helped them to get a house. So I've kept those relationships over the years. So I'm also working with their parents who are downsizing because they're going into senior living or they're wanting to have something that's a little simpler. And then also with kids, which is interesting. It's fun to work with them after all these years, watching them grow up. So that's a lot of what I do. I also sit open house every single weekend. Sorry. Again, I do that because not only because I'm trying to pick up clients, but I want to know what people are actually thinking. Not just all of you guys, because I know you know the market and I know you know but what do people think? What is it? What do they get? You know, so I want to learn what their thoughts are. How do they feel the market is? What are they? Why are they there? I always ask. You know, I love. You know, when you have an open house and the neighbors come through. Tell me about the neighborhood. What do you think about I gather incredible information by going to open house. I also have a developer that I work with. I think you guys know Tom Nicholson. And I asked them, what would you like to see in a house? And so it helps me to give information back to Tom to see what kinds of amenities or what is, that's one of the reasons we put elevators in the last 2 houses, because people ask for it. They want their kids and the grandparents to usually kids are upstairs and they're doing whatever. You want to, read a book for them at night, and so the elevator, that way the parents don't have to go up the stairs. So I do a lot of gathering of information. I'm not always necessarily looking to pick up a client, but also people have seen me from all these years, and so I have all these people that know who I am, and they sometimes they will call me and say, I know you're active in the neighborhood, can you come? I mean, I got one because I was sweeping the leaves in the front yard, and they asked me if I was the new owner, and I said, no, I'm the real estate agent. And they said, you're sweeping the leaves? And I said, yeah, that's what I do. and that afternoon they asked me to come and do a listing presentation. But I also think sitting down with your clients to go over your contracts, amazing way to show how much you know about what you're doing. That contract is your Bible. You have to know it backwards and forwards, and that means going to the listing with the listing contract, going over every single paragraph. Doesn't take very long for them to know, wow, this person knows what they're doing. And you get to talk about a lot of things that will come up in a contract as well. So you're dovetailing from your listing to your contract. People, if they've been told about something, will not be as alarmed. They'll say, oh, I remember, Beth told us about that in the contract, those termites and what happens, and all of the, and I have a million examples of things that have happened over the years that I can insert into those paragraphs. But know your contracts, backwards and forwards. I used to practice with somebody else going over every single one of the paragraphs so that I got it.
Thank you, Beth. Nancy, you've really focused on education throughout your real estate career. When did you realize the importance of that, and how does it benefit you today?
Before I say that, in my defense on open house, I do love to sit in areas, like Nuku'anu is where I live, so yeah, I really had fun last month when we had an open house, or there's certain buildings, and for the same reasons Beth says, yeah, it's really helpful for people to see me in person, because that's a neighborhood that I mail to regularly, but just to get the feel of what the pulse is, and to correct some people's interpretations of the market at the same time. But education, so my mom obviously was my mentor, and she was always huge on education. She was one of the first realtors to have all 3 designations, which were the only options back then, which was CRS, CRB, and CCIM, which is an extremely difficult one to get. And part of it because she would go to the mainland. She'd meet other agents, she'd take courses, then she'd come visit me when I lived in Oregon, my sisters when they were on the mainland. So it was a fun thing for her to do, and she would say, you know, at the end of the day, she'd go out, especially CCIM, she'd do her homework in the hotel room, you know, get room service. So it was just ingrained in me to get education. The CRS designation was huge to her, and our company kindly do at the time. So as soon as I could qualify for that, you know, I took the classes right away, which back then you had to start with 5 series of GRI, which I think was 3 classes, 3 days for each of the 5 pieces before you could take the CRS. So you had to have your GRI certification first. So it was a lot of time, but when the market was quieter, that's a perfect time to do things. I love negotiation classes, and you know, I feel like I really have a good handle on that when I'm talking to people, and I can see different strategies and what's going to work for this person and what's not. I have a seller right now who's not in MLS, and you know, and he's an attorney, but trying to figure what's going to work with them to get them moved out of the house that I've sold for them. But it's, you know, it's just knowing that you have, it gives you confidence, I think, and it's not just the contract stuff, which obviously is really important, but just people, just what's going on. And when you travel, because I go to conventions regularly, you get to put yourself in the national view of our business. You know, it's really easy to get too limited focus when we're just stay on this island. And the first time I went to a Coldwell Banker after we merged, Coldwell Banker convention, it was really awesome to see, you know, everything. It's just to be at a national convention, you're going to see people that you think, really, they're realtors? And then you're going to think, wow, we are really professional here. And really that's one of the things my mom had taught me about Hawaii. Maybe it's because our sales prices are always higher, but in the CRS, just using the CRS National Council as an example, we are one of the most respected CRS chapters in the country. Year after year, we win, you know, the top awards. And so when I show up as a committee member, you know, because I put myself on a national committee like I have right now, I walk in and I have this instant credibility because I'm from here. So you know, just, I don't think you can be overeducated. And the ninja class I took was a 5-day, all-day class with the ninja, but this one I saw that one and I would definitely recommend that.
Ron, you mentioned earlier about the Persian Gulf War that started in late 1990 and continued through February 1991. And how can external factors like this, the China trade wars, other things, how does that affect us in Hawaii in real estate?
Well, before I answer that question, I'll go back to open house. Open house is probably I don't enjoy open houses anymore. But anyway, it's very important for everyone if they want to succeed in this business, especially if the market is changing, to sit open house and sit every time you get a chance to, because you can pick up clients, and that's going to be the key in what's coming up as this market turns. So open houses is very important, and some of us love it more than others. Regarding your question about external factors, yeah, I've seen high interest rates affect the market. I've seen monetary policies stimulate the market. I've seen wars, deployment, tourism. There's a lot of things. Right now, everything is positive, except for interest rates are great. The economy is strong. Housing numbers, there's more inventory. Just that you have to go out and get the buyers. So external factors will play a part, but it's a cyclical process. So this is going to happen whether you like it or not. You just have to be prepared. So external factors doesn't mean it's bad or it's good, but it's just part of it. It's just part of what will eventually happen and how the market will be directed by it.
Thank you. Beth, I've heard you say you kissed a lot of frogs in the beginning of your career, but don't kiss frogs anymore. Can you please explain what you mean by that?
Okay, so some of you are going to know what that means, the others are not. But when I first started, I worked with every single person that I could work with. It didn't make any difference if they ended up buying or not. I think what Nancy said is absolutely, don't be tied to the results. Every single person I work with, whether they buy something or not, I've learned something from them. I've learned about that communication back and forth, how to work with a client. So I'm not so necessarily that if they buy or not, it's not about me, it's about them. Does it make sense for them to do that? You give them enough information so that they can make a good business decision. That's what your job is. That and solving problems. Somebody told me the other day, there's so many problems in this business. I said, yes, that's what we do. We solve problems. And the more problems you solve, the easier it's going to get. At this point in my career, like I said, I worked with every person that I could work with. Now I can tell within about a half-hour conversation whether I'm the right person for them or not. You're not, every single person you meet, you're not going to be the right person, and there's going to be disappointments that you do have. You know, they'll work with you, and then all of a sudden their cousin gets his license, and that's a family thing, and so now they're going to work with the cousin, and you're like, what? After I spent all that time. But it's not about you. Whatever you did with that client, you gathered information, whether you went out to an area that you weren't familiar with, and so you were able to now understand that area. Whatever the circumstances, you're always going to gain something from that client. But I don't kiss frogs anymore, because I can tell within about 30 minutes whether I want to work with that person or not. And I have such wonderful referrals of people, and it's kind of, as they say, birds of a feather. You know, a lot of people will refer you, and they're that same kind of person. But don't be afraid of working with someone that's tough. Those will teach you a lot in this business. So, yeah, no more frogs, but but I'm really good about developing what would I say to that person if I'm not going to work with them. And I actually say, I don't think I'm the right person to work with you. Because it's not fair for me to try to work with someone that I don't think it's going to work. At this point in my career, I can kind of tell whether if somebody's totally unrealistic, whether it be, I had a client years ago that he lived on the slopes of Diamond Head. I would have loved to have sold his house. But he had had some water intrusion in the bottom level, and he had repaired it. And we were going over the seller's disclosure, and I said, okay, we're going to, put that down. And he goes, no, we're not going to put that down. I've already fixed it. And I said, but you don't understand. I said, it could happen again. He says, I said, I already fixed it. And I said, it doesn't make any difference. You need to disclose it. It's past history regarding the property. I ended up telling him I couldn't work with him. And I would have loved to have had this property, but it just was not going to work. I was not going to do that. For his sake and for mine. It wasn't only me, it was he. He would be sued as well as I would if something happened. So, no more frogs.
Nancy, you mentioned that you've been mailing newsletters to your sphere and to your farm area in Uwanu for many years, and you continue to do it today. What do you think is the most important element of an effective mailer that will make people want to read and hold on to it?
Well, I started at the beginning, so my newsletter is very basic. Even my sister worked with me at some point around the year 2000 or so. She told her brother-in-law, who was a realtor in Idaho, I'm going to change Nancy's newsletter. But she didn't. So my newsletter is a page and a half. It's the first paragraph is always about the market as I see it. So some little statistics. The second paragraph is some kind of real estate related tip. Maybe it's about maintaining home or something. The third paragraph was always about my family. Just a little update of as my girls grew up and just the family unit. And then there would be whatever I was working on, just like a one line, an address, whether it was an escrow or a listing. And it's never changed from those 3 paragraphs. And what's amazing is every year still when I get Christmas cards from people on my newsletter list, almost everybody comments on, I love getting your newsletter. And these are people that may have never bought from me or done any business with me. And I have people send me change of address cards when they move that I don't even know they moved so that they can still get the newsletter. So, but I was talking to someone many years ago I saw at an event, a non-real estate event, and she was a loan officer on my list, and she said, I love when I see your newsletter in the mail because I feel like I'm getting a letter from a friend. And that just touched my heart. So, you know, in the beginning, I shut down my business for 2 days. I was a jazzercise instructor for many years, and so I had a large copy machine in my home. And I would copy them all, fold them all, label them all, stamp them all. And then finally I got to a point where I could ask someone else to print them for me and fold, which was like, oh my gosh. But I never stopped labeling them. So when Ashley, my daughter, came to work with me for a while, when she first got out of college, and she said, Mom, we need to just order these and have them automatically addressed. And I said, no. I'm going to always label them because I see every name every time. And then I will think of some reason maybe that I wanted to call them about something. In the last few years, I make sure that I handwrite, even if it's just Happy Summer, you know, and my name. And so I would like to have someone stamp them for me. But the labels, I'll never give that up. And I just wanted to piggyback on Beth with the frogs because I've only had 2 miserable clients in 27 or 28 years. Unfortunately, I worked with them both times when Ashley worked for me. So she worked for me, then she took a break, and then she came back and worked for me. One had been a referral from her college professor, and they were both in markets that were slow, you know. And the first person was he could not speak, so everything was email. And you know, I have a positive thing about people, and I'm thinking, I know he has a good heart, you know? But it was difficult. He was just a difficult personality. And one night I opened up my email, I was working late at night, and he would stay up late, and I was an early morning person, so I would often get emails from him first thing in the morning. But this one I happened to come in before I turned my computer off that night, and it was just scathing. And I just sent a brief reply, and I said, I don't think I'm the right realtor for you, and whatever else I responded. And then I just turned my computer off. I went to bed, and the next morning the email was, oh please, I'm so sorry. So I let it continue. And the other one, if I had there were 2 years between the other person. If I had just looked at the last 3 weeks of emails before that transaction had closed, I never would have worked with them again. But I had forgotten, and it wasn't worth it. Listen to your head.
So Ron, we talked a lot about the downturns in the market, and can you tell us what it was like for you and your business during the upswing in the early 2000s?
I'm getting old, so. So, I mentioned there was a lot of short sales and then foreclosures and REOs. I was fortunate because before the upswing, we started buying REOs for investments, and that kind of worked out good for me. But I think
Was it here in Hawaii or?
in Hawaii, but we're able to share this with our clients. So our clients actually bought quite a bit of investments in the marketplace. And then a lot of our clients sold their house to buy a new house. So they're step-up buyers. So that helped a lot. I mean, it was a steady, very steady, busy market. And it was all past clients and referrals. And what can I tell you?
What about Las Vegas?
Yeah, Las Vegas. There was after the subprime mortgage bubble. Well, people in the mainland, especially in Las Vegas, they have this mentality that they're going to invest or gamble, and that's what they did. So it's a non-recourse state. So if you buy something and you give it back to the lender, your credit is ruined, but they don't garnish you. With the subprime mortgage and these easy qualifying, no income verification, no down payment, no credit. They're buying properties. And when the market stopped, that's when they gave back the last property. But they made hundreds of thousands of dollars, or a lot of money. So in Las Vegas, whole neighborhoods had to turn over because the prices went down 60%. So if you had clients in investors, and that was a good time to buy, 2009, 10, 11, 12, in Las Vegas. Is that what you wanted to hear?
So do you own a lot of properties in Las Vegas too?
I own a property there.
Okay, so Beth, last question.
Okay.
What is your best advice to prosper in a changing market?
I would just say, stick to the basics. Do your, whatever farming you usually do, keep doing it. Open houses, I love them, but if that's not the right thing for you, maybe sending out postcards, just church, do charity work, get involved with people so that you're out there in front of people and they know who you are and what you do. And I said, just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. Also, when I was in management for 7 years, and I had agents under me, which was an amazing experience because I got to review all of their contracts, which put me into such different, people and personalities and situations that it really added to my wealth of knowledge. But I think that if you just keep doing the things that you do constantly, any commissions that you get, squirrel some away. Squirrel some away. Just, go out and get those new pair of shoes or whatever. Squirrel some money away so that you feel comfortable. And I would say just keep doing what you do. Explore other things. Go out there, do some other things that you might not have done before. Just keep going. The market will go down and it will go up again. Not to worry. Not to worry.
Okay. How about you, Nancy? What is your best advice?
I agree. Positive attitude is huge. The media is always going to be negative, no matter what we're doing. When in the 2004 to 6 that you mentioned earlier, I remember a time or 2005 that we were so busy, but the media was still for over a year talking about how down the market was, and so we would just look at each other as agents and say, whatever, we're busy. So don't forget that. And people, I worked at Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor in high school, and Bob Farrell, who was the president of the chain across the country, came and talked to us. And the thing he said was, when you walk through, because everybody goes to Farrell's to have a good time, he said, when you walk through the doors to your shift, you got to leave everything that's going on bad in your life outside, and just turn it on for that time. And we have to do that for our clients. And we have to remember, I had a closing today from a young couple that emailed me about 3 months ago. It was a referral from my best friend, it's her nephew, from 6th grade. And they sent me an email, I responded pretty quickly, and they were so excited in their second email, couldn't wait to meet me and start their exciting journey. And I hung up, I didn't hang up the phone because of the email. And I sat there because I was kind of having a little bit of a down day, and I thought, and I just kind of got almost this euphoria of, wow, we are so lucky. We get to make a difference in someone's life. This couple was so excited that they had found someone that was going to help them buy their first home, and I just thought, if you just remember that every day when you start your day, that we are so blessed to be, it's like what James Stone used to always say when he came to a meeting, we have the best job ever to sell real estate in Hawaii.
Thank you. How about you, Ron? What's your words from the wise?
Oh, okay. I would say keep a positive attitude. Okay. Perseverance, just keep on, finish the task at hand. Continue education. You learn something great every time. I think this might be one of the most important ones. Treat your business like a full-time job. Okay? It's an easy business, but if you treat it like a full-time job and get disciplined, I think you'll make it a lot easier. Remember that your job is also, you're helping the client make their probably one of their largest financial decisions in their life. Take it seriously. Important to educate the client, like Beth and Nancy were saying. Our job is to make them aware of the marketplace, explain to them terminology that they might not know, like points or loan-to-value ratio. It's not always the lender's job to do that. I would say, let's see. Just remember, life is short. Enjoy the ride.
Let's give a big round of applause to our all-star team.
Licensed realtors are there right now.
There's in Hawaii. On Oahu, there's over 6,000 licensed realtors.
It's not bad.
But statewide, I think it's over 10,000.
Yeah, okay, well, it will go down, guys. So there'll be more business out there for you.
We do have a couple minutes if anybody wants to ask questions of the panel. Does anybody have questions? No? Okay, thank you all. Oh.
What did the Diamond Head guy sell? With someone else?
He did,
Oh.
he did. They've never had that kind of flooding again. That was on the slopes of Diamond Head, so it came right into and went right through his lower bedroom. And then he built a retaining wall and all of that, but he needed to disclose it.
Yeah.
Did he on that sale?
I have no idea.
I wonder.
I have no idea, yeah.
Because even if it never happened again, there's a good chance a neighbor would have told the new buyer about what happened.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And then you go, well, wait a minute. And
Yeah.
then how else do you feel about what else wasn't said?
Exactly.
And if the realtor has the knowledge of it and didn't disclose it, then you're liable as well.
Oh, bad. Yeah, you're toast. Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody.